The freedom model has a foundation, and in order to understand the foundation of what we do, let me give you the foundation of what the current model of treatment does. It's based in the mythology or the falsity of the disease concept, this idea that addiction happens to you, that you're afflicted. And the idea that human beings are susceptible, that a certain subgroup of people are susceptible to addictions, and that they can become addicted, and that it's beyond their control, and that they lose control, and that there's a brain disease, and there's chemistry that drives use, is completely backwards. And so the reason it's backwards is it's body-centered, and it marginalizes this idea that we have a mind, and that there's reasons for people's use, and it takes away choice, and it takes away the concepts of the very things that make us human, which is the ability to reasoning, right? We reason out our habits. We decide upon them, and we go and we desire something for personal reasons. Again, reasoning. Reasoning is a product not just of the brain, but of the mind. And the brain and the mind are not the same. So I've often used the analogy that the mind is the software, the intelligence, and your brain is the hardware that filters, and processes the mind. Now the mind, our mind, the way we think, is based on our experiences, what we've learned as human beings from others and our experiences. And it's how we think, how we're driven. It's also where we experience life. It's where we feel things emotionally. That's in the mind. The brain is sort of the middleman where it processes these things. Now, this distinction is important because the entire disease concept is body-centered. It's as if the chemistry of your body creates thought. And that's actually not true. The mind, your motives, your desires, which is, we don't know what it is. It's metaphysical, right? The mind, thoughts. That they don't have tangible evidence, but we know that we have them. We have thoughts and desires. So the freedom model is it's predicated on this idea that you're a chooser, that you choose things for certain reasons, and you choose your habits for certain reasons. And habits develop based on repetitious thought or desire, repetitious desire. If you like orange juice every morning like I do, I have a desire for orange juice when I wake up, along with some coffee and then breakfast, right? That's a desire. That's something that is habitual, but it's something we all agree is healthy and is good. Then we have things that we don't agree with, and we call them addictions. So if society doesn't agree with you putting a needle in your arm and shooting heroin, we tend to call it an addiction. And then we tend to say it was beyond the person's control, because for those non-users out there, they can't possibly understand why you would put a needle in your arm. And to get high seems incomprehensible. Yet, if you ask heroin users why they do it, they say it's because I like it. And when they're honest about it. So I use the analogy a lot with, I was a boxer for a number of years, and you get in the ring with the intention of knocking somebody out, right? Literally disconnecting somebody from their senses. And you also have the risk of somebody disconnecting you from your senses as well, which isn't too much fun. So people have often asked me, my God, Mark, why did you box? And I say, didn't you know you could get knocked out? Well, of course I knew I could of course, because my intention was to knock the other guy out. Now, there's a point to this. All decisions, every decision we make has a cost or a price or a trade-off. If I wanted to win in boxing, I had to take the risk that I might get knocked out. If I want to shoot heroin, I might get hepatitis. I might lose all my financial backing. I might lose my family. I might lose my wife. I might not. None of those things might not happen. But the risk is there. The trade-off is there. So as a society, we don't agree culturally with somebody getting high. And so we call it an addiction. But really, what is it? What is it? And this is the fundamental underpinnings of the freedom model. Describes exactly what actually is happening with a human being that does heroin, that drinks too much or drinks a lot, or takes Xanax heavily or whatever it might be. Behind a person's substance use are three human attributes, always. And these are the three pillars of the freedom model. They are free will, autonomy, the fact that you have your own thoughts and you're your own person, and the positive drive principle. The positive drive principle is this idea, which is a fact, and that is that you're always motivated personally by the pursuit of happiness, by something that makes you happier in each given moment. For example, it makes me the happiest to be in front of this camera right now, or I wouldn't do it. Well, the heroin user, when he puts a needle in his arm, is doing the same thing. He believes at that moment it's his happiest option. He or she is already aware of the trade-offs, the costs, the potential consequences. They know that. But they're willing to pay that price, just like I was willing to get knocked out in the ring, right? So, or the stock car racer is willing to crash a car at 200 miles an hour in order for the glory of winning. He wasn't thinking, I want to crash. I'm not getting in the race car so that I crash. Just like the heroin user doesn't say, I want to get hepatitis, right? What they're saying is, I want to be high. I want to win the race. I'm going to knock that guy out in the ring. I want the glory. So on the front end, we get the benefits of drug use, and we reason that out through our ability of the positive drive principle, which is how we're motivated as human beings. And so that's one pillar. So that's our motivation. That's what drives us. And it drives all human beings the same way. The kid in a third world country, his priorities may be different. It may be to get food and water. That's his happiest option. Somebody in America, a suburban kid who has lots of money, may have heroin, and his job and his girlfriend and his car and all these different things might be his pursuits of happiness. And heroin might be one of those things, or drinking or partying on the weekends, or a heavy substance use habit. So you get the point. So that's the positive drive principle. That's what drives us. That's pillar number one. The next one is free will. We're choosers. As human beings, we can choose anything. And that's the beauty of free will. Free will is infinite. It is the infinite mental capacity to choose anything internally. I can choose to feel any way I want at any given point under any circumstance. So part of that is I can choose to shoot heroin, I can choose to drink, I can choose to not drink, I can choose to moderate my drinking, I can choose any option available. Now, all of those options exist, but in our treatment-centered culture, it's very difficult to moderate because of the mythology that you can't moderate. As an example, that's how the treatment industry confines you to an option. And in the freedom model, because we know that free will is infinite, moderation becomes easy. You just got to get rid of all the mythology that treatment's been teaching for 70 years. That's a very important point I want to make, because the freedom model is not an advocate for moderation. It's not an advocate for abstinence. It's not an advocate for heavy use. It's an advocate for you to be able to choose anything you want for your personal reasons. But you can't make an educated decision without the mythology being debunked first. So we spend 450 pages in our book debunking all the nonsense that is in the treatment and recovery society today, Western culture. So that's free will, the positive drive principle, and now autonomy. Autonomy is the ability, the wonderful, wonderful attribute of a human being to be an individual, right? I'm me. And within the confines of my mind, I can choose to be who I want to be, and I can also choose to reject certain things. For instance, when I was 18 years old, I rejected what treatment taught me. I said, I don't believe that I'm an alcoholic. I don't believe that I'm going to be broken the rest of my life. my autonomous nature, the attribute of being a human being, that attribute allowed me to be able to reject it. Now, eventually I accepted it because I had to accept it to get my license and my freedom back. But the truth is, it's like when a mugger walks up with a gun to your head, you'll give them the money, but your autonomy says, it's really not your money, buddy. That's my money that you're taking. So our autonomous nature allows us to have full control over our sphere of influence. We get to react a certain way to situations, and we get to choose that, and that's a wonderful thing. In other words, no other human being can control you. And that's important for treatment goers, because the treatment community is based in control. It's based on telling you need to abstain from drinking and drugging. You're not supposed to like it. You don't like it. Look at you. Look at your life. So, but the reality is, you were just getting high. And you were getting high because you preferred it at that time, or you wouldn't have done it. And we recognize that, and we work from that truthful position forward. Okay, is there a better option for you? Is moderation an option for you at this point? Do you believe you can moderate? Now, everybody can moderate. Everybody can abstain. Everybody can do whatever they want. But you have to have all the proper information to be able to make an educated decision. And so we'll walk through that with each individual. So, again, let's recap. Free will is the ability to choose. You have the infinite power of choosing. So it's not about willpower. There is no human vessel filled with this much willpower, and the guy who's the addict has this much willpower, right? He doesn't have. It's not a matter. When they put power in that whole argument, it was a huge distraction. Each person has infinite power in the ability to choose options. So we're all equal. We all are able to be choosers and choose our destiny. So that's free will. Autonomy, you're your own person. You contain your own power, your own ability to choose, all right? And your own thoughts. And you get to guide your life, and nobody can control you without your express consent. And then the positive drive principle is, how happy do you want to be? Really? I mean, each choice that you have, that you're confronted with in life, you get to say to yourself, what's my happiest option in this set of circumstances? And people with good vision are able to navigate through life quite easily and do it with relative happiness. And so those are the three pillars of the freedom model. They're the opposite of everything that treatment teaches. It is not control-based, it's freedom-based. And you are the master of your own destiny. We're just showing you the components of how to do that. Enjoy.